It was the same house I grew up in, but the walls felt thinner now, as if they couldn't contain the echo of things left unsaid. Des Moines hadn't changed much, just colder in November like every year. I parked 2 blocks away on purpose. It bought me a minute to breathe, a minute to put on my armor. Inside, the Hartley home was filled with the scent of cinnamon-glazed ham and perfumed civility. Everyone smiled too wide. My sister, Adrielle, hovered by the kitchen island, hands restless, like she was stirring more than just cranberry sauce. Mom, Celine, stood by the oven with the same carefully rehearsed warmth she wore every Thanksgiving. "You're always doing so well, Marlowe," she said as I handed her a bottle of Merlot. I gave a tight smile. My coat stayed on. I scanned the room. Same decor, same strained harmony. We sat. The food looked beautiful like a magazine spread. Everyone passed dishes, toasted with sparkling cider, and exchanged small talk that sounded like lines from a local commercial. And I waited, because there's always an ask. Always. Then came the clink. A spoon tapping against a wine glass. Everyone turned. Celine stood, smiling like a judge reading a sentence. "Adrielle's overwhelmed," she said, voice delicate and firm. "From now on, Marlowe, you'll be paying her rent." There it was. The ask, dressed like a verdict. Forks paused midair. No one looked at me. Adrielle didn't even flinch. She added, "You're the only one without kids or real stress. It makes sense." My jaw stayed shut, but inside, every memory stacked like bricks. Every check I covered, every emergency I was expected to absorb, every whispered thank you that came with a guilt trip. I didn't ask them to fall apart. I just picked up the pieces because no one else would. And now they'd made it law. No one asked. They decided. My glass of wine trembled slightly in my hand. I set it down, slowly, deliberately, folded my napkin, edge to edge. Celine tilted her head. "You're not going to argue? That's mature of you." Then Dad with the final cut. "Family's about giving back. You don't just walk out when it's hard." I stood. My chair scraped the floor. Faces blurred around the table. Blurred with entitlement, not love. No more explanations. No more negotiation. Silence. That would be my answer. I left the coat. Left the pie I brought. Left the lies. Fireworks popped outside. Some neighbor celebration. The irony made me smile for the first time that night. Inside, my ties were burning. Back in my apartment, the messages started before I took off my shoes. From the family WhatsApp, Marlowe walked out. So selfish. Ungrateful. Then the Facebook posts, relatives posting vague quotes about family obligations. One tagged me. A cousin texted, "Everything okay?" They said you flipped. Then Nia, my only friend from work, sent a link. GoFundMe. Helping Adrielle, a family's struggle. Her face in the photo. Sad. Heroic. One comment read, "Her sister's rich. She just doesn't care." I didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just froze. Until there was a tap on the window. Vera Donnelly's nephew, maybe 9 years old, standing outside with his paper plate of dessert. He looked at me through the glass. Then mouthed, "Grandma said you'd pay." They practiced. Practiced. The whole thing rehearsed. The betrayal didn't cut because they asked. It cut because they planned. They had choreographed it. And I was just another act. Back inside my apartment, I moved fast. Banking app, unlink joint accounts. Cancel auto transfers. Group chats left. Shared insurance policy deleted. Contacts blocked. All except Rian. And Kelly. They never spoke, but at least they never lied. Standing by the window, I watched the snow begin to fall. They wanted silence. They'd have it. They wanted support. Let them earn it. There's nothing colder than being alone in a room full of family. The morning light didn't feel like a reset. It felt like a glare. My phone buzzed with 37 unread texts and 8 missed calls, all from familiar names, People who hadn't said more than a sentence to me in years, now suddenly speaking in paragraphs. My cousin Bailey had reposted the GoFundMe with a caption that bit without naming. Families shouldn't turn their backs when someone's drowning. Nia messaged, "You okay? They're making you out to be the villain." She added a screenshot of a thread filled with assumptions. One read, "Guess she finally got tired of pretending she wasn't better than us." Vera Donnelly, our across-the-street neighbor, was apparently chatting with anyone who'd listen. According to another message, she'd told someone at the pharmacy, "Adrielle's been buying shoes like she's a celebrity." I didn't respond. I didn't engage. I screened every call, muted every chat. When people talk about you like you're a bank account that grew legs, silence stops being absence. It becomes sacred. By noon, my phone rang again. I almost didn't pick up, but Caleb Strand's name flashed across the screen. "Marlowe," he said, calm but clipped. "We've got an issue. Adrielle listed you as a financial co-signer on her apartment lease." "What?" I blinked. "I never signed." "She submitted documents bearing your signature. I've got copies. They're not clean. We'll push a cease and desist." It hit like black ice. Months ago, Adrielle had handed me an envelope. "Just old receipts," she'd said. I hadn't opened it. Caleb was already drafting the letters. This could become criminal if they push harder. Later that evening, my voicemail pinged. Celine's voice was cool. "If you won't help your sister, then don't come home at all." That word, home, felt like a bruise now. I stared out my window, city lights blinking like they were watching. I will not be blackmailed with love anymore. The calls didn't stop, but their tone changed. Rian phoned late. His voice was hushed. Mom's unraveling. Dad sold his vintage Omega to cover the heating bill. They're in a tailspin. The GoFundMe, once climbing, now teetered. It had hit $300 before someone flagged inconsistencies. Donations froze. Vera dropped a public comment. "Adrielle's not overwhelmed. She's irresponsible. There's a difference." Then came a legal notice. Not mine. Adrielle's ex, Jonas Briggs, had filed for full custody of their daughter. The filing cited financial instability and referenced the GoFundMe as proof of chaos. The house I walked out of days ago had become a powder keg. Rian texted a video, Adrielle screaming, then throwing a lamp against a wall while Dad tried to calm her. The screen shook with each crash. Kelly called next. She said you ruined her life. Her voice was tired, but maybe she's realizing it wasn't yours to fix. The walls were cracking, and still I didn't feel triumphant, just steady, until the knock came. I didn't answer, but the envelope under my door said enough. No return address. Inside was a folded letter, printed words drenched in guilt and veiled threat. "You've humiliated us. You left us no choice." Celine's voice echoed in my head. The phrasing was hers. Caleb wasn't surprised. "Fear," he said, reading it, "disguised as authority." I met him the next day. We froze every joint account, canceled every cosign, blocked access. I rewrote my will to sever everything but a donation to Kelly's college fund. Rian called later. "They were staging it," he said quietly. "I overheard Mom and Adrielle last week. Planning, word for word. If I was ever a character in their play, I was done with the script." Back home, I closed the laptop and opened the window. The wind was brutal but honest. Then Jonas posted a video. Kelly was in it, laughing, sitting on his porch, sipping cocoa. Her small smile had weight, like freedom. Rian's text came minutes later. Adrielle's losing custody. I didn't smile, didn't feel righteous, just still. I lit a candle on the balcony, sipped wine, watched the flicker fight against the wind. "Not mine to carry," I whispered. But they weren't finished. Not yet. I wrote the invitations by hand. No subject line, no explanation. Just a time and place. My handwriting was steady even when my stomach wasn't. "Celine, Adrielle, Rian. Kelly. I slid them into envelopes, sealed them without ceremony, and dropped them in the mailbox before I could second-guess it. Nia asked me the night before, wine in hand, legs curled under her on my couch. "You sure about this?" "I'm not fixing," I said. "I'm finishing. Closure isn't a gift I owe them. It's the door I finally get to shut behind me." Rian called to confirm. His voice danced between cautious and cynical. "Is this a trap or therapy?" "Neither," I said. Adrielle didn't reply. "Celine left a voicemail. Will come. But don't make a scene, Marlowe. Please." I set the table that afternoon. No holiday decor, no centerpieces. 4 plates, 1 candle, and an extra chair left empty. A placeholder for boundaries. Celine arrived first. She took in my apartment with a sharp, sweeping glance. "I see your job pays well." I didn't answer. Adrielle came in behind her, thinner than I remembered. She didn't say a word, just glanced at the floor and moved to the furthest seat for mine. Rian followed, carrying a 6-pack of sparkling cider like a peace offering. "I didn't know what to bring," he mumbled. Kelly slipped in behind him, cheeks red from the cold. She hugged me tight. "It feels quiet here," she whispered, "like no one's pretending." We sat. The plates clinked as I served the roasted vegetables, chicken, warm bread. No one reached for seconds. I was the first to speak. "Let's eat," I said. "I didn't bring you here for forgiveness. Just honesty." I pulled a framed photo from the buffet behind me. Us as kids. Disneyland. Smiling too big, holding melted ice cream. I set it on the table, then turned it face down. Celine flinched. No one spoke. Adrielle broke the silence. "So is this your victory dinner?" I didn't bite. "It's my boundary dinner." Celine laughed without humor. "You were always so dramatic. You know, families fall apart when the glue gives up." "I was never the glue," I said. I was the tape you ripped off once the mess was patched enough to hide." Rian put down his fork. "We all leaned on you too long." Adrielle's lip curled, almost speaking, but she stopped. The pause felt like a scream. Kelly leaned forward, her voice sharper than I'd ever heard. "She doesn't know you. She never did." Celine looked down at her plate, her voice low. "You'll regret this someday." "Maybe," I said, "but it'll be my regret." The candle flickered between us, flame small but steady. "This isn't about hate," I said, reaching over and blowing it out. "It's about endings." I pulled out 4 folded pieces of paper from my coat pocket. I handed them out one by one. Each paper listed boundaries. No financial contact. No emergency leverage. No unannounced visits. No guilt as currency. Adrielle crumpled hers immediately, pressing it flat again before shoving it into her purse. Celine folded hers neatly and placed it in front of her like a napkin. She didn't say a word. Rian read his, nodded once, and tucked it into his pocket. "Thanks for dinner," he said, standing. I walked them to the door. No hugs. No forced goodbyes. Kelly stayed behind. She looked at the empty chair, then back at me. "You did the brave thing," she said, slipping on her coat. After they left, I stood in the quiet, letting the weight settle. It didn't feel like peace. Not exactly, but it was something close. Freedom isn't the absence of family. It's the absence of obligation. The phone rang later. I let it go to voicemail. When I finally played it back, Jonas's voice spilled into my kitchen. "We need to talk," he said, "about custody, about what Adrielle told the court." Apparently, truth still had debts to collect.